Hey everyone, welcome back. We're diving into the Genesis physics engine today, and wow, this version 0.2.0 documentation, it's incredible.
It's really ambitious, you know. They're aiming to be so much more than just another physics engine.
Yeah, just skimming through it. Genesis wants to be this platform for robotics, AI, rendering, even data generation. It's a
It
lot.
really is. The
Yeah.
idea is to have this one platform that can do it all.
Okay, so before we get ahead of ourselves, can you give us a quick rundown of what Genesis is trying to be?
Imagine a single platform where you can design a robot, simulate how it moves in a crazy environment, and then use that to train AI.
Yeah.
That's the vision behind Genesis.
That's a lot to take in. But one thing that really caught my eye was this claim about speed. They say it's like 10 to 80 times faster than other physics engines. Is that even possible?
Oh, yeah. It's a few things, actually. They've really fine-tuned their algorithms, for one thing, and they're using some pretty cutting-edge techniques to make the calculations way more efficient.
So better code, basically.
Yeah, but it's more than that. They've designed it to take advantage of modern hardware, too, especially GPUs.
Ah, because GPUs are great for parallel processing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And physics simulations need a ton of parallel processing power.
I can see how that speed boost would change what you can do with Genesis.
Absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it. If your simulations run 80 times faster, you can try out way more designs, test more ideas, and that speeds up the entire research process.
Makes sense. And speaking of making things easier, I noticed that Genesis is built entirely on Python, both the interface and the engine itself. Isn't that unusual for something this complex?
It is a bit different from the norm, but it's a conscious choice.
Hmm.
Python is really user-friendly, especially for people who are just starting out.
So it seems like their goal of making robotics research more accessible. It's built into the platform itself.
Exactly. By using Python, they're opening it up to a much wider audience, people who might not be expert programmers.
That's pretty cool. Okay, so let's get into some of the features because there are a ton. One that jumped out at me was photorealistic rendering. So are these simulations going to look like they came out of a movie?
That's the idea. It's not just about making things look pretty, though. Having realistic visuals is super important for training AI. If you want AI to understand the real world, you need to train it on data that looks like the real world.
So you're not just simulating the robot's movements, you're simulating how it sees the world.
Exactly. And that level of realism opens up a whole bunch of possibilities, not just for robotics, but for things like computer vision, VR, even entertainment.
Okay, now for a slightly more technical term that I saw in the documentation, differentiability. Can you break that down for us? It sounds kind of intimidating.
Well, it's not that bad. Think of it this way. Imagine you're simulating a robot arm picking up a delicate object. With differentiability, you can tweak things like the friction on the object's surface. And the simulation will show you exactly how that little change affects everything else, how it affects the robot's grip, the whole system.
So it's not just about running a simulation, it's about being able to tinker with the variables and seeing how those changes play out. That sounds incredibly useful.
It is, especially for fine-tuning designs. It's one of the things that makes Genesis stand out.
Another feature that seemed pretty unique was tactile sensors. Is that basically giving robots a sense of touch in the virtual world?
You got it. It's about simulating things like pressure, texture, even temperature, which is super important for tasks that require a delicate touch, like handling fragile objects or working with soft materials.
So it's taking realism to another level. It's not just how a robot looks in the simulation, it's how it feels its environment.
And that's going to be key to developing robots that can really interact with the world in a human-like way.
Okay, so we've got speed, photorealistic, rendering, differentiability, tactile sensors, and there's still so much more to talk about.
We've only scratched the surface. Genesis is packed with innovative features, each one pushing the limits of what's possible in simulation.
Well, hold on tight, everyone, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to tackle one of the most mind-blowing features of all generative simulation. This is where things get really interesting.
All right, so last time we had a glimpse of just how powerful and fast Genesis is, but there's one feature that really makes it stand out from the crowd: generative simulation.
Yeah, this is the one that really kind of blew me away when I first read about it. The idea that you can just describe a simulation in plain English and Genesis will build it for you. It's crazy.
It's pretty amazing stuff. Instead of having to code every little detail, you can basically talk to Genesis and say, hey, I want a simulation of a robot dog walking through a busy park. And it'll just create that whole environment for you.
So how does that even work? What's the magic behind it?
Well, it all comes down to a combination of natural language processing and a deep understanding of physics in 3D environments. Genesis is able to take your words, figure out the key elements, and translate those into the parameters needed to build a realistic simulation. He can create the park, the crowds, the robot dog, even program the dog's basic behaviors.
So it's not just understanding words, it's understanding concepts and relationships. Like, it knows what a crowded park actually looked like and how a robot dog would move through that space.
Exactly, and that's what makes it so powerful. It's bridging the gap between human language and machine understanding, which opens up a whole new world of possibilities for how we design and interact with simulations.
Okay, this all sounds incredible, but are there any limitations? Is there anything Genesis can't do with this generative simulation stuff?
Well, it's still early days, so there are definitely some limitations. For example, the complexity of the simulation is still somewhat restricted by what natural language processing can handle right now. You can't just write a whole novel and expect Genesis to turn it into a perfectly rendered interactive world.
So there's still a need for human creativity and input. You can't just let the machine do everything just yet.
Right. It's more about giving users a really powerful tool to create the basic structure of a simulation. And then you can refine and customize it further using more traditional programming methods.
That makes sense. It's about augmenting human capabilities, not replacing them. But even with those limitations, the possibilities are still huge. We talked about research and development, but what about other fields?
Think about education. Imagine students learning about physics by building virtual bridges and seeing if they can hold up. Or history classes where they can walk around ancient cities in a simulation.
So it's about making learning more interactive, more engaging, more fun.
Exactly. And it's not just about traditional subjects. You could use Genesis to teach valuable skills like coding and problem solving too, in a way that's exciting and accessible for everyone.
It sounds like Genesis could really democratize access to knowledge and opportunity, giving people the tools to learn and create in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
Absolutely. And that goes back to the core mission of Genesis, making cutting-edge technology available to everyone, not just a select few.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about the technology itself, it's about what people can do with it.
Exactly. And that's what's so exciting about Genesis. It has the potential to unlock a wave of creativity and innovation, empowering people to solve problems and make a real difference in the world.
It's like giving everyone a key to the laboratory of the future.
And who knows what amazing discoveries are waiting for us in that laboratory.
It's definitely a future I want to be a part of. But before we wrap up this section, is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind when they're thinking about the impact of Genesis?
I think the most important thing to remember is that technology is a tool. And like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
So it's up to us to make sure that Genesis and other powerful technologies are used responsibly and ethically.
Exactly. We need to be aware of the potential risks as well as the benefits. And we need to have open and honest discussions about how to build a future where technology helps humanity, not the other way around.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to move on to the final part of our Genesis deep dive. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Genesis. And we've covered a lot: the speed, the Python base, that incredible generative simulation. But now I think it's time to ask the big question: what does this all mean for the world?
Right. It's one thing to be impressed by the tech itself, but the real impact is going to come from how it's used. So how could Genesis actually change things out there in the real world?
Well, let's start with the good stuff. How could Genesis make the world a better place?
Well, robotics is already changing so many industries, from manufacturing to healthcare. And with Genesis, researchers can develop and test robots so much faster in these really realistic virtual environments.
So we could see things like surgical robots, disaster relief robots, even robots that can help take care of the elderly. All of that could happen much faster.
Exactly. And it goes beyond robotics. Genesis can speed up innovation in any field that uses simulation, from material science to climate modeling.
So it's like giving scientists and engineers a superpower, the ability to run tons of experiments, explore all these possibilities without the limitations of the physical world.
Exactly. And that could lead to breakthroughs that would have been impossible before, or would have taken decades to achieve.
Okay, so that's research and development. But what about everyday life? How could Genesis impact how we live?
One area with huge potential is education. Imagine students learning about physics by actually building virtual bridges and testing them out, or history classes where they can walk around simulations of ancient cities.
It's about making learning hands-on, engaging, fun.
Right. And it's not limited to traditional subjects.
Yeah.
Genesis could be used to teach important skills too, like coding and problem solving, in a way that's exciting and accessible for people of all ages.
So Genesis could really open up access to knowledge and opportunities, give people the tools to learn and create in ways we haven't even thought of yet.
Yeah, that's the idea. And it all comes back to the core mission of Genesis, to make cutting-edge technology available to everyone, not just a select few.
Because in the end, it's not about the tech, it's about what people do with it.
Exactly. And that's what makes Genesis so exciting. It has the potential to unleash this wave of creativity and innovation, give people the power to solve problems and make a positive impact on the world.
It's like we're giving everyone the keys to the laboratory of the future.
And who knows what amazing discoveries await us in that laboratory.
It's a future I can't wait to see unfold. But before we wrap up, is there anything else our listeners should keep in mind as they think about the impact of Genesis?
I think the most important thing is to remember that technology is a tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad.
So it's our responsibility to make sure that Genesis and these other powerful technologies are used in a way that benefits everyone.
Right, we need to be aware of the potential downsides as well as the benefits. And we need to have open and honest conversations about how to create a future where technology serves humanity.
Well said. On that note, I think it's time to bring our deep dive into Genesis to a close.
It's been a fascinating journey exploring this incredible technology.
And I hope our listeners are leaving with a better understanding of Genesis and how it could change the world.
If you're as excited about Genesis as we are, I encourage you to check out the documentation for yourself and see where your imagination takes you.
Because the future is ours to create. And with tools like Genesis, the possibilities are truly limitless.